If Ned Stark had claimed the Iron Throne during Robert's rebellion, the course of Westerosi history would have been irrevocably altered. The rebellion itself, a response to the Mad King Aerys II Targaryen's tyranny, had rallied noble houses against the Targaryen dynasty. In this alternate timeline, Ned Stark's decision to claim the throne emerges from a combination of duty, political necessity, and circumstances on the battlefield. In the original history, the rebellion concluded with Robert Baratheon ascending the Iron Throne after the deaths of Rhaegar Targaryen at the Trident and Aerys during the sack of King's Landing. However, imagine a scenario where Robert, wounded in the war's final days, succumbs to his injuries. Without a clear successor to unify the realm, the victorious coalition faces a power vacuum. Despite his reluctance, Ned Stark steps forward to claim the Iron Throne, believing it to be the only way to preserve peace and ensure justice. Ned's ascension is not born from ambition but from a deeply rooted sense of duty. He views himself as a steward, holding the throne until a more suitable ruler can be found. His close bond with Robert and his shared role in bringing down the Targaryens lend legitimacy to his claim, but the decision is not without controversy. Some houses, particularly the ambitious Lannisters, resent a Stark sitting the throne, while others, like the loyal Tullis and Aarons, support Ned's claim. Once crowned, Ned faces the immediate challenge of consolidating power in a fractured kingdom. His first act is to reward loyalty and secure alliances. Jon Arryn, his mentor and father figure, remains Hand of the King, ensuring a steady and experienced presence at court. The Riverlands and the Vale, tied to the Starks through marriage and friendship, form the backbone of his support. However, Ned's decision to pardon former Targaryen loyalists in a bid to stabilize the realm causes tension among his own allies. Tywin Lannister, who played a pivotal role in the rebellion's victory through his sack of King's Landing, demands rewards for his house, including a marriage alliance with the royal family. Ned, valuing honor above pragmatism, refuses to condone the atrocities committed during the sack, deepening the rift with House Lannister. As king, Ned's rule is marked by an emphasis on justice and fairness. He seeks to reform the realm's governance, addressing the excesses of Aerys' reign. Tax burdens on the small folk are eased, and measures are taken to curb the power of corrupt noble houses. However, Ned's northern upbringing and rigid adherence to honor make him ill-suited to the intrigue and deception of King's Landing. The capital becomes a hotbed of scheming, as ambitious courtiers and lords test the limits of the new king's patience. One of the most significant challenges to Ned's rule comes from across the Narrow Sea. The surviving Targaryens, Viserys, and Daenerys find refuge in Essos, where they begin plotting their return. Their claim to the throne, though weakened by their family's fall, still resonates with Targaryen loyalists in Westeros. Ned, deeply aware of the devastation caused by Aerys' tyranny, views the Targaryens as a lingering threat but refrains from pursuing them actively, unwilling to spill more blood unnecessarily. The political landscape in Westeros under Ned's rule undergoes subtle but meaningful shifts. The North, long considered a remote and insular region, gains greater influence over the affairs of the realm. Ned's family becomes central to his efforts to unify the kingdom. Catelyn Stark, as queen, navigates the complexities of southern politics with the grace and tact Ned lacks. Robb, as the eldest son and heir, is groomed for leadership, while Sansa and Arya are positioned for strategic marriages to strengthen alliances. Despite his best efforts, the seeds of discontent grow. The Lannisters, feeling sidelined and humiliated, begin plotting against the crown. Tywin's ambition to see his house rise to prominence drives him to exploit any weakness in Ned's rule. Meanwhile, Dorne, still nursing grievances over Elia Martell's murder during the sack of King's Landing, remains aloof and mistrustful. Ned's refusal to address these lingering wounds directly sows the potential for future rebellion. The stability of Ned's reign is further tested by external threats. The Ironborn, emboldened by the weakened state of the realm following the rebellion, launch a series of raids along the western coast. Balon Greyjoy, sensing an opportunity, declares independence, forcing Ned to mobilize the crown's forces. The subsequent war is brutal and costly, but it reaffirms the crown's authority. However, the victory comes at a price, as the kingdom's resources are stretched thin, and discontent among the lords grows. In the north, the distant but growing threat of the White Walkers begins to stir. Reports of strange occurrences beyond the wall reach Ned's ears, but he is consumed by the challenges of ruling the south. His brother Benjen, as first ranger of the Night's Watch, warns of the dangers, but these warnings are overshadowed by the immediate demands of the throne. Ned's reign is a constant balancing act between his honor and the realities of kingship. His decisions, while morally upright, often lack the ruthlessness needed to maintain order in a realm as divided as Westeros. His unwillingness to play the political game to its fullest extent leaves him vulnerable to manipulation and betrayal. Over time, his rule begins to fray at the edges, with alliances weakening and rival factions growing bolder. As the years pass, Ned's hope of passing the throne to Robb fades. His eldest son, though a skilled commander, lacks the political acumen needed to navigate the treacherous waters of King's Landing. Ned's realization of this fact weighs heavily on him, as he grapples with the question of succession and the future stability of the realm. Ultimately, Ned Stark's decision to claim the Iron Throne during Robert's rebellion reshapes the Seven Kingdoms in ways both profound and subtle. His reign is defined by honor, justice, and a relentless pursuit of peace, but it is also marked by the sacrifices and compromises required to hold a fractured realm together. While he brings a measure of stability, the forces of ambition, vengeance, and external threats continue to loom large, threatening to undo everything he has fought to achieve. The twilight of Ned Stark's reign on the Iron Throne is fraught with growing tension and uncertainty. Despite his best efforts, the fractures within the realm deepen as old rivalries and new threats converge to challenge his rule. The consequences of his initial decision to claim the throne become increasingly apparent as the pressures of governance and the burdens of honor collide. One of the most pressing issues Ned faces is the resurgence of Targaryen loyalists. Across the Narrow Sea, Viserys Targaryen's quest for an army gains momentum when he brokers a marriage alliance with Khal Drogo of the Dothraki. Daenerys Targaryen, though initially overshadowed by her brother, grows into a charismatic and determined leader. Her bond with the Dothraki and eventual acquisition of dragon eggs through the Magisters of Essos create a symbolic rallying point for those dissatisfied with Stark rule. Rumors of dragons returning to the world, coupled with whispers of Targaryen sympathizers in the south, place Ned in an untenable position. He is forced to decide whether to prepare for an invasion or to attempt diplomatic measures to preempt further bloodshed. Meanwhile, Ned's sense of justice continues to create enemies among the nobility. His refusal to condone the ruthless actions of lords like Tywin Lannister, combined with his insistence on fairness in taxation and governance, alienates key houses. The Lannisters, still smarting from perceived slights during the rebellion and Tywin's dismissal from influence, quietly consolidate their power. Jaime Lannister, no longer bound by the Kingsguard due to Ned's reform of the institution, is granted Casterly Rock, ensuring the Lannister legacy remains intact. Cersei, on the other hand, weaves her own schemes within the capital, using her beauty and cunning to sow discord among the court. Dorne remains another thorn in Ned's side. The Martells, still grieving the loss of Elia and her children, harbor deep resentment toward the crown. While Ned attempts to extend an olive branch, proposing a marriage alliance between his younger children and members of House Martell, these overtures are met with suspicion. The wounds of the past prove difficult to heal, and Dorne remains a restless and largely autonomous region within the Seven Kingdoms. In the north, the situation grows more dire as winter draws closer. Reports of the White Walkers and their growing army of the dead increase in frequency, but the southern lords dismiss these as the ravings of northern superstition. Ned, torn between his duties as king and his loyalty to the north, feels an acute sense of failure for not heeding the warnings earlier. His brother Benjen's disappearance beyond the wall becomes a haunting reminder of the dangers lurking in the farthest reaches of the realm. Jon Snow, Ned's illegitimate son, emerges as a pivotal figure in the fight against the White Walkers. As a member of the Night's Watch, Jon rises through the ranks and eventually becomes Lord Commander. His appeals for aid, sent to his father in King's Landing, create a moral dilemma for Ned. While he recognizes the existential threat posed by the White Walkers, the political realities of the South make it nearly impossible to divert significant resources northward without risking rebellion among the Southern Lords. The final years of Ned's reign see a slow unraveling of the tenuous peace he worked so hard to maintain. The Lannisters, sensing an opportunity, begin to openly challenge the crown's authority. Tywin orchestrates alliances with key houses in the Westerlands, Riverlands, and Reach, creating a coalition that threatens to tip the balance of power. In the east, Daenerys Targaryen finally makes her move, crossing the narrow sea with a growing army and 3 fully grown dragons. Her arrival sparks chaos, as her presence forces many houses to reconsider their loyalties. Caught between these 2 powerful forces, Ned Stark's position becomes increasingly precarious. His adherence to honor and justice, while noble, leaves him vulnerable to the ruthlessness of his enemies. The court in King's Landing fractures under the strain, with factions vying for power and influence as the realm teeters on the brink of civil war. Despite his best efforts to maintain unity, Ned finds himself isolated, surrounded by advisors who either question his judgment or plot against him in secret. The final blow comes when the combined threats of the White Walkers, the Targaryen invasion, and internal rebellion converge. Daenerys' dragons wreak havoc on the southern armies, while the White Walkers breach the wall, marching southward with an army of the dead. In the chaos, the Lannisters launch their bid for the throne, seizing key territories and declaring independence from the crown. Faced with enemies on all sides, Ned is forced to make the ultimate sacrifice, abdicating the throne in favor of Robb, who he believes might have a better chance of uniting the realm against these overwhelming odds. In the end, Ned Stark's reign on the Iron Throne is defined by his unwavering commitment to honor and justice, but it is ultimately undone by the harsh realities of Westeros's political landscape. His decision to claim the throne, while born of necessity, sets in motion a chain of events that lead to greater turmoil and suffering. Yet, his legacy endures in the values he imparted to his children and the hope that, even in the face of overwhelming darkness, the Stark family might rise again to protect the realm and ensure its survival.